I closed the door behind me and stood there for a second, letting the noise settle in my ears. No one had even bothered to greet me properly. They just looked at me like I had walked into a room where I didn't belong. Darian finally stepped forward, his smile thin and forced. "You're late," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Late. After a 10-hour shift. I placed my bag down slowly, taking off my shoes like nothing was wrong. My heart was beating faster, but I refused to show it. I could feel their eyes on me, waiting, almost excited to see how I'd react. "What's for dinner?" his aunt asked, crossing her arms. That question told me everything. Darian hadn't just invited them over. He had promised them something. Something that involved me playing a role I was never asked to agree to. I looked at him for a brief second. He didn't look away. In fact, he seemed pleased. Like this was some kind of test, and he expected me to fail. For a moment, I imagined arguing. Calling him out. Asking him why he thought this was okay. But then I noticed the way his cousin smirked, like she was already judging me. They were waiting for a scene. Waiting for me to lose control so they could confirm whatever story he had told them about me. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to give them what they wanted. Instead, I gave a small, calm smile and nodded. "I'll take care of it." The reaction was immediate. A few surprised looks. A whisper or two. They clearly expected resistance, not compliance. I picked up my bag again and walked toward the kitchen, steady and unbothered on the outside. But inside, everything had changed. This wasn't just about dinner. This was about respect. And as I stepped into the kitchen, I already knew this night wasn't going to end the way Darian planned. I had barely stepped into the kitchen when I heard Darian's voice again, louder this time, like he was making an announcement. "She's got dinner covered," he said casually. Covered. Like it was already planned. Like I had agreed to this. I paused for a second, my hand resting on the counter. He didn't even come in to check on me. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just told them what I would do, as if I had no say in it. Then the comments started. "Well, that's how it should be," his Aunt Leora said. "A wife should always be ready for her husband's family." Someone else laughed softly. "Exactly. It's not that hard to keep a home running." I could hear every word clearly. They weren't even trying to be quiet about it. I opened the fridge and stared inside, not really looking for anything yet. I just needed a moment to think. This wasn't new. That's what hit me the hardest. Darian had done things like this before, small moments where he spoke over me, made decisions for me, brushed off my opinions. But it was always in private. Easy to ignore. Easy to excuse. Tonight was different. Tonight, he was showing everyone that this was my place. That I was someone who could be told what to do without question. And they believed him. I grabbed a few things from the fridge and set them on the counter, moving slowly. My hands were steady, even though my chest felt tight. Another voice came from the living room. "Does she always take this long?" A quiet chuckle followed. I let out a slow breath and leaned slightly against the counter for just a second. They weren't just expecting dinner. They were expecting me to prove something. To prove that I was exactly who he said I was. I straightened up, my expression calm again, and started moving with purpose. If they wanted to watch, I'd give them something to see. Just not what they were expecting. As I moved around the kitchen, my mind kept going back to moments I had pushed aside before. Small things that didn't seem serious at the time, but now felt different. I remembered the first time he made a joke about my job. We were at dinner with his friends, and he laughed while saying my work wasn't real pressure compared to his. Everyone laughed, and I smiled along, even though it didn't feel right. Later, when I told him it bothered me, he said I was being too sensitive. There were other moments too. Times when I tried to share something important about my day, and he would cut me off or change the topic. Times when I made plans for us, and he cancelled them because his family needed him. I told myself it was normal. That family comes first. That relationships require patience. I kept adjusting. I started speaking less, arguing less, expecting less. It felt easier than turning every small issue into a big fight. I thought I was keeping the peace. But now I could see what was really happening. It wasn't about peace. It was about silence. Every time I let something go, it gave him more space to decide things for me. Every time I stayed quiet, it made it easier for him to ignore how I felt. And somewhere along the way, he stopped seeing me as an equal. What hurt the most was not just what he was doing, but how comfortable he looked doing it. There was no hesitation, no guilt. He acted like this was normal, like I should accept it without question. That realization settled heavily in my chest. I had been trying to make things work, believing that effort would fix everything. But effort only works when both people care. Standing there, I understood something clearly for the first time. This wasn't misunderstanding. This wasn't stress. This was a pattern. And patterns don't change unless someone decides to break them. I didn't rush. That was the first thing I chose. Instead of moving fast or trying to impress anyone, I slowed everything down. I opened cabinets quietly, took out plates one by one, and placed them on the counter with care. Every movement was steady, controlled. There was food in the fridge from earlier in the week. I took it out, checked it, and started warming it up. Nothing fancy. Nothing new. Just enough. From the other room, I could hear the shift in energy. At first, they were still talking and laughing. But as time passed, their voices lowered. The laughter became shorter. Then came the whispers. How long does it take? Is she even cooking? I kept going, ignoring every word. I set the table slowly, making sure everything was in place. Plates, glasses, utensils, each one placed exactly where it should be. I even paused to wipe the table, even though it was already clean. Footsteps came closer. I didn't turn around, but I knew it was him. What are you doing? Darian asked, his voice tight. They're waiting. I know, I said calmly, without looking at him. That's not the point, he replied, lowering his voice. Hurry up. I finally turned to face him, still calm, still steady. Dinner will be ready. For a second, he just stared at me. He wasn't used to this. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't apologizing. I turned back and continued what I was doing. He walked away, clearly annoyed. Minutes later, I carried the dishes out one by one. No rush, no stress. Just quiet control. They watched me as I placed everything on the table. Some of them looked confused. Others looked irritated. Good. I took my seat without asking, my expression unchanged. Let them feel uncomfortable. For once, I wasn't the one being pushed. For a few seconds, no one spoke. They were waiting for me to stand up again. To serve them, to move around, to keep proving something. But I didn't. I picked up my fork and started eating like everyone else. The silence grew heavier. Aunt Leora glanced at Darian, then back at me. Cousin Beckett leaned back in his chair, watching closely, like he was trying to figure out what I would do next. Darian cleared his throat. Aren't you going to, help out, he said, trying to sound casual. I looked up at him, calm and steady. I am helping. I made sure there's food on the table. He forced a small smile, but I could see the tension in his jaw. That's not what I meant. I just got home from work, I replied simply. Same as you. That sentence hung in the air. Someone shifted in their seat. Another person looked down at their plate. The energy in the room changed, and everyone could feel it. Darian let out a short laugh, like he was trying to fix the situation. You're acting strange tonight. I'm just tired, I said, taking another bite. No anger. No raised voice. Just the truth. His aunt spoke again, her tone sharper now. A wife should make sure her guests are comfortable. I turned to her politely. The food is here. You're welcome to it. That was it. No long explanation. No apology. Just a clear line. The table went quiet again. This time, it felt different. Not awkward, controlled. Darian looked around, realizing that no one was backing him up the way he expected. The moment wasn't going the way he planned. I continued eating, calm and unbothered on the outside. Inside, I could feel the shift. For the first time, I wasn't adjusting to their expectations. They were adjusting to mine. And they didn't like it. The tension didn't go away. It just settled into something quieter, something sharper. Then Beckett spoke. He leaned back in his chair, a small smirk on his face. I guess Darian wasn't joking, he said. Looks like he finally got things under control. A few people chuckled under their breath. I paused for a moment, my fork hovering over my plate. I didn't react right away. I just looked at him, calm and steady. Under control? I asked. He shrugged. Yeah. He told us how things have been. Said you don't really pull your weight around here. That you needed a reminder. The words landed clearly. No confusion. No misunderstanding. I slowly set my fork down. Around the table, no one looked surprised. That's what stood out the most. No one questioned what he said. No one looked shocked. They all accepted it like it was already known. That meant one thing. This conversation had happened before tonight. More than once. I shifted my gaze to Darian. He didn't say anything. He didn't deny it. He just sat there, avoiding eye contact, like silence would protect him. Everything started to make sense. The way they looked at me when I walked in. The tone in their voices. The confidence behind their comments. This wasn't based on one moment. It was built on a story they had already been told. A story where I was the problem. Lazy. Ungrateful. Difficult. I let out a slow breath, keeping my expression neutral. So that's what you've been telling people, I said quietly. Darian finally looked at me, but his face was tight. You're taking it the wrong way. No, I replied calmly. I'm understanding it clearly. No one spoke after that. The truth didn't need more words. It was already sitting there, out in the open. This wasn't just a bad night. It was something planned. Something repeated. And now that I could see it fully, there was no way I could ignore it anymore. I didn't argue. That was the part they didn't expect. Instead of defending myself or raising my voice, I stayed exactly the way they already saw me, quiet, calm, and easy to overlook. I picked up my fork again and continued eating like nothing had changed. A few of them exchanged looks, almost confused. Maybe they thought I didn't understand. Maybe they thought I was too weak to respond. Let them think that. It made things easier. I listened carefully as the conversation slowly started again. Small comments, light jokes, casual words that carried more meaning than they realized. Every sentence gave me a clearer picture. I began connecting everything. The way decisions were made without me. The way my effort was ignored. The way my silence was used against me. None of it was random. It was all part of the same pattern. And I had been standing in the middle of it the whole time. I kept my expression soft, my movements slow. On the outside, nothing had changed. I nodded when needed, stayed polite, and didn't interrupt anyone. But inside, something had shifted completely. There was no more confusion. No more doubt. I wasn't trying to fix anything anymore. I wasn't trying to prove anything either. I was just done. Done explaining. Done adjusting. Done accepting things that didn't feel right. The noise around me faded into the background as my thoughts became clearer. This situation wasn't going to improve with words. It wasn't going to change with patience. It needed a clear ending. A final line. I placed my glass down gently and looked around the table for a brief moment. Everyone seemed comfortable again, like the tension had passed. They had no idea. I gave a small, calm smile, the same one I had been holding all night. But this time, it meant something different. This wasn't acceptance. It was a decision. And I knew, without any doubt, that this would be the last time anyone treated me like this in my own home. I placed my napkin neatly beside my plate and stood up without making a scene. "I'll be right back," I said quietly. No one questioned it. They were too relaxed now, too sure that everything had settled. That nothing serious would happen. I walked down the hallway at a steady pace, my steps calm and even. When I reached the bedroom, I closed the door behind me and took a breath. Then I went straight to the drawer. Inside was a folder I had put together over time. I hadn't planned to use it like this, not in front of everyone. But now, it felt necessary. I picked it up and held it for a moment, making sure my hands were steady. Everything I needed was inside: bank statements, payment records, and the official documents tied to the house. Things I had kept track of quietly. Things I had double-checked more than once. I opened the folder briefly, scanning the pages. Every detail was clear. Every number matched. There was no confusion, no missing piece. This wasn't something that could be argued away. I closed the folder and walked back toward the living room. The sound of voices grew louder as I got closer. They were still talking, still comfortable, like nothing had changed. When I stepped back into the room, a few heads turned. I didn't rush. I walked to the table and placed the folder down carefully in front of me. Darian noticed it immediately. His expression shifted, just slightly. "What's that?" he asked. I looked at him, calm and steady. "Something important." He frowned, clearly unsure. I opened the folder slowly and placed a few papers on the table, making sure everyone could see them. No one spoke. The room went quiet again, but this time it felt different, heavier, more serious. I rested my hand lightly on the documents and looked around the table. Everything was in place. Everything was ready. And for the first time that night, I knew the control wasn't slipping anymore. It was mine. I looked down at the papers for a second, then back up at everyone sitting around the table. "These are the house documents," I said calmly. No one moved. No one spoke. I picked up one page and placed it closer to the center so they could see it clearly. "The house is in my name," I continued. "It was purchased using my inheritance." A few faces changed immediately. The confidence they had earlier started to fade. Darian let out a short laugh, trying to brush it off. "Why are you bringing this up right now?" I didn't look at him. "Because it matters." I turned another page. "These are the payment records. Mortgage, utilities, repairs. Most of it has been paid by me." That time, no one laughed. His aunt leaned forward slightly, trying to read the papers. His cousin's smirk was gone. Darian shifted in his seat. "You're making this sound wrong," he said quickly. "That's not how it is." I finally looked at him, steady and direct. "Then explain it." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. I let the silence sit for a moment before speaking again. "You told everyone I don't contribute," I said. "You told them I don't do my part. But these papers say otherwise." I tapped lightly on the documents. "They show exactly who has been keeping this place running." The room felt completely different now. No whispers, no judgment, just quiet attention. I continued, keeping my voice even. "There's nothing wrong with sharing responsibilities. But there is something wrong with lying about it." Darian tried to speak again, his voice sharper this time. "You're overreacting." "No," I said, cutting him off before he could go further. "I'm being clear." That stopped him. For the first time, he didn't have control of the conversation. No one stepped in to support him. No one defended him. They were all looking at the same truth now. And there was no way to hide it anymore. I slowly stood up from my chair. No one stopped me. No one spoke. The room stayed completely still, like everyone was waiting to see what I would do next. I looked around the table once, taking in every face. Then I let a small, calm smile stay on my face. "Dinner is over," I said softly. A few people shifted uncomfortably, but I didn't stop. I turned my gaze toward Darian. He looked different now. Less confident. Like he wasn't sure where he stood anymore. "And so is this marriage," I added. That sentence changed everything. The air in the room felt heavier again, but this time there was no confusion. Everyone understood exactly what was happening. I stepped away from the table and walked toward the door. I opened it and held it there. "I think it's best if everyone leaves now," I said politely. No shouting. No anger. Just a clear instruction. One by one, they started standing up. Chairs moved. Footsteps followed. No one argued. No one tried to defend anything that had been said earlier. They left quietly, avoiding eye contact, carrying the silence with them. Soon it was just Darian and me. He stayed seated for a moment, like he didn't know what to do with himself. The same confidence he had earlier was gone. He finally stood up slowly, but he didn't say anything. I didn't rush him. I just waited. After a few seconds, he walked toward the door too, stopping briefly like he wanted to say something, but couldn't find the words. Then he left. I closed the door behind him. The house felt different after that. Quieter, but not empty in a heavy way. More like something had finally been set in place. I stood there for a moment, still holding that same calm expression. And I understood something clearly. I hadn't lost anything that night. I had only seen the truth. And sometimes, that is stronger than any fight, any argument, or any loud revenge. Because real power doesn't need noise. It only needs control, clarity, and the courage to end what no longer belongs to you.